I'm going to start off with a question. I'm going to give you what I think is the ultimate answer, and then I'm going to try to show you the breadcrumbs that I picked up along the way. My first question is to you: how many Jade Helm 15 training soldiers did you have watch Sunday football with? I know if you're like myself, your head is so buried into your fantasy football, a world war could start, and it would take until the fourth quarter till you realized it. But my answer to the question is I believe Jade Helm 15 is counterinsurgency training for our military. I never was comfortable with the premise that our American citizens needed practice to blend in with Americans. So there has to be a reason for it. And our American soldiers could need practice if somebody other than Americans needed was looking for them. I.e., if you're China or Russia and you invade America, you're going to want to round up the soldiers. You don't care what they say. You want to make sure you get the people that can operate those heavy equipment. So that's why I've been very alarmed. That's one of the biggest breadcrumbs right off the start was, hey, we don't need experience blending in with Americans unless we're practicing a counterinsurgency where our soldiers need to be available without being recognized by heavily armed soldiers. So you've seen pictures of all these military equipment being moved all over the country, and it's been such a public format. I think they're sending a signal to both Russia and China. Here are some things for you to think about. No longer do we store all of our equipment in that huge base in California. We've got it all over the country, and we now have our soldiers hidden all over the country. So that was my thought, but there were several breadcrumbs that have been leading up to this. And here's a conspiracy theory or an alert to those. If you don't like conspiracy theories, then you might want to turn this off now. I'm going to start off with the first three breadcrumbs that are the CIA. And it's led me to believe the CIA has been the agency of our government that is pushing for war. They're the ones trying to bring Iran, Russia, and China into a war. First of all, the CIA attempted to use sarin gas on the Syrian army and then pin it on them, say they did it. They got careless. A quick investigation by the UN says, yeah, it wasn't the Syrian army, it was the Syrian opposition. So that smells like CIA right there. The second one is the CIA created and funded ISIL. Now, why did they do that? Well, they needed a boogeyman for the Shiite Arabs of Iran to go to war with. Both those attempts are to draw Iran in, knowing that Russia and China and Iran are now linked together. So the third and final CIA operation was toppling the pro-Russian Ukrainian government. Too much evidence is out there showing the current regime is a puppet government of the United States. Now half the state is with the West. The other half is now fighting along with the Russians, and that is for ethnic reasons. It's been covered a lot in the YouTube world, and I don't need to recover it. But it's important to understand that the CIA was behind that as well. Now, I don't know if they thought the Russians were going to take advantage, with their little green men in Crimea. But that was, to me, a blatant attempt to draw to draw Russia into a conflict with NATO. I think they feel like Putin will respond like he has. The only cooperation that isn't happening is the world's like, we're not sure who the good and the bad guys are. I myself am not sure who the good and the bad guys are, but there's been other breadcrumbs left to us by our military, and I think I know why they're doing it. You all saw that report recently where a shooter was at a Jade Helm 15 training, and he was in a red pickup truck with Broken Arrow on the front of it. Now, most of us picked up quickly that Broken Arrow is Air Force for a rogue nuke, a nuke that is not being held by the military. There was a movie about it. There's other definitions for Broken Arrow, but in my mind, it is telling us that there is a nuke out there. So in some ways, I think the military planted this idea to say, hey, if we get attacked by a rogue nuke, we know where it came from. And here again, we go back to Iran. Obama pushed heavily for this multilateral deal. It's the worst deal in the century, and they should have walked away from the table. But if you believe the bankers are pushing us to a global war to make huge profits, which they always do, the Rothschilds have taught everybody that war is big business. You finance both sides, and at the end, you collect from both sides. The winner pays you, and then the loser pays with the resources that of the country. So, and plus, the global financial system is so bad, whether you're Japan or America, you can't have 0% this long without it being a joke. So I think the military put that out there to tell us that if a nuke detonates somewhere off the coast of America, that came from Iran because they cheated on their agreement. So what's the first step? Well, you lay the groundwork early, and the groundwork we just heard was Iran. Oops, we found much more yellow cake in our country. Yellow cake is the uranium in its raw form, for which you can then process it and spin and make nuclear bombs. So that was, to me, a report that is planted along with the Broken Arrow, the planning of finding extra yellow cake within their border to say, see, they had the ability even outside of our agreement. We made the agreement thinking they had depleted all their yellow cake supply. So those cheaters. So as you can see, the World War III, many people have made the case it's already started, and there's a strong case for it. But I believe what's happening is the CIA is doing the dirty work. They're pushing us to war. I believe Obama, on his recent trip to Alaska, he didn't just rename a mountain, salmon fishing, and all that. I believe he met with the Chinese military over in that was conveniently stationed in international waters right off the coast. I believe there was some clandestine meeting that he attended where he said, listen, I don't know if you're aware of this. I had nothing to do with this Jade Helm 15 training, but they're moving military equipment all over the country. The soldiers are scattered. If you invade, be ready for a strong counterinsurgency. So I'd like you to comment on what I just said. If I'm wrong, It wouldn't be the first time, but I believe people are leaving us breadcrumbs, some intentionally disinformation, but some of it is information we need to know to protect ourselves. So for those of us who are preppers, make sure you're ready. I don't know when it's going to start, this year, next year, but I think Jade Helm 15 is a counterinsurgency training for the World War III that I don't see how we avoid.